Visiting Seattle without a car? Or would you like your guests to get the genuine Emerald City experience? Consider using public transportation, free of driving, traffic, and parking fees. Start by catching almost any Metro bus headed downtown to Seattle's Central Business District at 4th and Westlake. Community transit north of the city also has buses to downtown Seattle. Coming from the airport, ride in on the Link Light Rail. Beginning on the Olympic Peninsula, take a ferry. The Sounder commuter train connects Everett to Tacoma during rush hours, and if you arrived on a cruise, you're already on the tour route. Westlake Center at 5th and Pine is a good place to start, especially if you arrived in the tunnel on Link Light Rail or a combination gas-electric bus. The tunnel is designed in Metro's retro deco motif. Here below Westlake and 5th Avenue, you'll find transit maps and schedules to other city features like Route number 124 to Boeing's Museum of Flight, or the Ballard Locks on Bus Route 17. Also in the tunnel are weather-protected underground entrances to Macy's and the flagship store for Nordstrom. Swedish immigrant John W. Nordstrom, after a successful stint in the Klondike Gold Rush, opened his first Seattle shoe store in 1901. Today, still known for footwear, clothing, and customer service,
dress it up or dress it down.
There are over 200 Nordstrom stores located in 26 states. Across 5th Avenue is Westlake Center, an urban specialty mall, with an international food court and the downtown terminus for the monorail to Seattle Center. Built for the 1962 World's Fair by the Swedish Alweg Corporation, the futuristic monorail will whisk your group to the Seattle Center House food court. Only in Seattle can you ride on a monorail train from one food court to another. There's plenty to see and do at the Seattle Center.
Everybody's planning to see Seattle's spectacular World's Fair.
So pack up your family and head for the fair in Seattle.
Welcome to the future and all the wonders of the 21st century in the greatest preview the world has ever seen.
Take a way ahead, look at tomorrow, just as if you were there.
A half century ago, this was the site of a jewel box-sized world exhibition, forecasting lifestyle in a futuristic Century 21. Before that, the Duwamish Indians hosted potlatches on this marshy ground. Early settlers called it the Prairie. In 1928, Seattle built its new Civic Auditorium here, funded in part by a bequest from Old Town saloon keeper James Osborne. The Civic Auditorium, once referred to as the house that Suds built, was refaced as the Opera House for the 1962 World's Fair. Still retaining its well-built original 1928 superstructure, the building was born again in 2003 as the Marion Oliver McCaw Hall, home to the Seattle Opera and the Pacific Northwest Ballet. No longer the Prairie, this acreage is now known as the Seattle Center, the city's center for arts, culture, and science. Visitors will recognize the Space Needle, an easy-to-spot Seattle icon. Board the Needle's elevator, ride 520 feet in 41 seconds to the observation deck and restaurant. On a clear day, Mount Rainier can be seen from the Needle, though it's 80 miles to the southeast. Clear weather is when locals often greet one another by saying, "The mountain's out." The fair's United States Pavilion has become the Pacific Science Center, with its towers, fountains, and reflecting pools. It resembles a 21st century think tank. This is a child-mesmerizing playground of interactive science. There are animatronic dinosaurs, a tropical butterfly house, an IMAX theater, and exhibits both indoors and out. It's a hands-on fun stop for the kid in all of it. The Seattle Center grounds is also home to the world-famous Seattle Children's Theater, the Children's Museum, arts festivals like Bumbershoot, Folklife, and the ever-popular Bite of Seattle. For sports fans, there's the Key Arena, home to the Seattle Storm women's basketball team, and the Rat City Roller Girls. Rock music fans will enjoy the Experience Music Project, an interactive museum that celebrates rock and roll, its roots in jazz, soul, gospel, country, and the blues. EMP is also a concert hall, and in this same Frank Gehry designed building is the Science Fiction Museum, the world's first museum encouraging storytelling, prediction, and future thinking. The Sci-Fi Museum's Hall of Fame honors writers, filmmakers, publishers, designers, and artists.
Science fiction has always been a part of trying to explore where we're going. What does this mean for us? What does the future hold for us?
Music and science are a passion for Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, who has gifted Seattle with these two unique venues. Mercer Street stretches along the north edge of the center grounds. Remember McCaw Hall and its stage built especially for the Seattle Opera and Pacific Northwest Ballet? Nearing its 50th anniversary, the Seattle Opera is known internationally for its presentation of the Ring Cycle, Wagner's great opera in 4 parts based on Norse mythology. The Pacific Northwest Ballet has grown over the years, presenting a full calendar of classic and modern ballet. Every holiday season, PNB stages its unique version of the Nutcracker, with sets designed by famed children's book illustrator Maurice Sendak and choreographed by the ballet's own Kent Stowell.
The cannons go off, they squeal, the mouse comes out, they squeal, and when the curtain comes down and they go out in their nice party dresses that they came in, and they dance down the streets as they go home.
Further west on Mercer Street is the Intiman Theater, producing American stories, world masterpieces, and thought-provoking writing. Next door is the Tony Award-winning Seattle Repertory Theater, with a mixed season of classics, Broadway hits, both off and on, along with cutting-edge new works in the Bagley Wright Theater's 3 auditorium spaces. Across Mercer Street is Teatro Zinzanni, once described as Moulin Rouge meets Cirque du Soleil, with a combination of circus, vaudeville, European cabaret, and dinner theater, performed in a century-old Belgium mirrored tent. Very entertaining. Check it out. Return to Westlake Center on the moderately priced Monorail, or meander south by foot on Avenues 1 through 5. The waterfront will be on your right. At 5th and Denny is Tillicum Place, a small park with the statue honoring Seattle's namesake, Chief Sealth, the son of royalty from both the Duwamish and Suquamish native tribes and a protective friend to early settlers. Pass through Belltown and over the Denny regrade. Why regrade? Originally, this was the 107-foot-high Denny Hill. City engineer Reginald Thompson preferred it leveled for trolley and horse-drawn traffic. It was regraded in 2 phases between 1910 and 1930 by hydraulic steam shovel. The earth was hauled away to Elliot Bay, creating a larger waterfront, and the remainder was sluiced away, all in the name of progress. If proposed today, a regrade wouldn't get past the first environmental impact statement. This was the biggest of Seattle's 50-plus regrades. Today, Belltown is bohemian, trendy, and has its own off-leash dog park. Condominiums, restaurants, and nightclubs are along this short walk back. Don't feel like walking the whole way? Buses are a free ride from here to Westlake Mall. Look for the free ride zone boundaries at bus stops or ask the helpful coachman. Back at Westlake Center, in the intersection of 5th Avenue and Olive Way, is yet another mode of public transportation, the South Lake Union Streetcar. It travels up Westlake to South Lake Union Park. The Museum of History and Industry, or MOHI, is moving into the former Naval Armory. South Lake Union Park is a perfect place for a picnic with its green area and views over Lake Union. See the factory-like structures on the far north end of Lake Union? That was once the Seattle Gaslight Company, now reimagined as Gasworks Park. It contains remnants of the sole remaining coal gasification plant in the country. In warm weather, Lake Union is teeming with sailboats. Stop by the Center for Wooden Boats. Here's where maritime history is preserved, comes alive, and is passed along to future generations. Rent a sailboat or rowboat. Not trained in watercraft? They give lessons. Unfortunately, you'll be unable to return downtown by boat. The quickest way back to Westlake and Fifth Avenue is the streetcar. Back in Seattle's central core, all the numbered avenues have points of interest. Here are some suggestions. The Fairmont Theater, featuring touring shows and concerts, is on 9th Avenue and Pine Street. The Washington State Convention Center and Visitors Bureau at 8th and Pike is a good place to get free local maps and questions answered. On 7th Avenue at Union Street is A Contemporary Theater, or ACT, dedicated to producing work with promising playwrights and local performing artists in its 4 performance spaces. There's something to see all year long at ACT. Located between 6th and 9th Avenues, Freeway Park is bounded on the north by Union Street and on the south by Spring Street. Built as a lid to reduce noise from Interstate 5, the park is a mixture of greenery, brutalist architecture, and waterfalls. Its 5 acres provide a green space seemingly out of the city and a perfect spot for a picnic lunch. By free bus or foot, head south. On 5th Avenue, pass through the lobby of the City Center building and see an extensive, permanent collection of fine glassworks from internationally famous Northwest artists. If the 5th Avenue Theater is open, get a peek inside. Built in 1926, the interior architecture replicates historic Beijing China landmarks. In the theater dome, surrounded by colorful, symbolic themes, is the Great Dragon. Pretty impressive. The 5th Avenue Theater is home to locally produced musicals and road shows. If one is playing, be sure and check it out. Across 5th Avenue is Seattle's dagger in the ground, the Rainier Tower. Engineering oddity? Not really, just makes it seismically sound. Around the corner on University Street is the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. Built in 1924, the Olympic has hosted presidents, royalty, and movie stars. It was restored to its original glory in 1981. The hotel's Georgian room is the perfect spot for an elegant afternoon European tea. Our last 3 stops are part of an 8-block plot that was the original site of the University of Washington. UW moved to its current location, northeast of Lake Union, in 1909, following the Alaska-Yukon Pacific Exposition, Seattle's first World's Fair. The exposition's landmark fountain is still in service on the University of Washington campus. To get to the university, hop on Metro buses 71 to 73, leaving Westlake Center. This is not a free bus. Back on our downtown Seattle tour, walk down University Street toward the water to 3rd Avenue. Look up to see historic architectural details along the way. At 3rd Avenue and University Street is the Seattle Tower. Opened in 1929 as the Northern Life Tower, it's a 27-story skyscraper and Seattle's first Art Deco tower. Art Deco echoed the machine age, transportation, and the power of electricity. The Seattle Tower's distinctive exterior is clad in 33 shades of brick, which lightens from the bottom to the top, said to have been inspired by the area's snow-capped mountains. Inside the tower's lobby is a bronze relief clearly showing Seattle as the gateway to the Pacific Rim. Catter-corner to the Seattle Tower is the Seattle Symphonies Benaroya Hall and Memorial Gardens. Free tours inside are at noon on Tuesdays and Fridays. Call ahead to arrange free demonstrations of the Seattle Symphony's 4,490-pipe Wattgen concert organ. On the lower level is Sound Bridge. Children and families will enjoy musical storytelling, the instrument petting zoo, or become an interactive virtual symphony conductor. Free for children under 5. The Hammering Man sculpture at First Avenue and University Street is your invitation to the Seattle Art Museum. Drop in to see extensive permanent collections, exciting international exhibitions, and a diverse lineup of programs. Admission is free on the first Thursday of the month. It coincides with the First Thursday Art Gallery openings in Pioneer Square later in our tour. The Seattle Asian Art Museum is located in Volunteer Park on Capitol Hill. You can get there from Westlake Center on bus route number 10. Continuing south and switching avenues is Seattle's Central Library at 4th and Spring Street. The glass and steel structure designed by Rem Koolhaas opened in 2004 and has great views from the top floor. Use the free computers and local tourist books to fill in your city adventure. This is Seattle's 3rd Central Library building on this site. Across 4th Avenue is the Seafirst Tower, now known as Safeco Tower. At 50 stories, it was Seattle's first Class A modern skyscraper.
But of course, longtime Seattleites know it as the box the Space Needle came in. This was really Seattle's first major modern skyscraper. There's these 4 mammoth columns on each corner of the building. They're carrying a huge amount of weight, but as you go higher and higher, they're carrying less and less weight. So functionally, they don't need to be as big. What it actually does for you is it exaggerates the verticality of the building and makes it feel even taller than it is. So it's this great example to me of taking a modernistic principle and having it serve the building beautifully. This building was built in 1969. That's the reason it's the box the Space Needle came in. 1962, they built the Space Needle. Big thing on Seattle Skyline. 1969, they built this big black box. And it does indeed look like the two would fit together.
You can learn more about the city's historic buildings by taking Seattle Architecture Foundation's walking tours. Further south on 2nd Avenue, the older building with the pointy top is Smith Tower, Seattle's first steel and masonry skyscraper. Completed in 1914 at 522 feet and 42 stories, this was the dream of Cornelius Smith of Smith Corona typewriter fame. He wanted to build the West Coast's tallest building. He also wanted a fireproof structure because the Great Seattle Fire was only 25 years earlier. More on the fire later. Office doors and window trim are steel and hand-finished to resemble highly grained mahogany. You can still take an original manually operated elevator to the Chinese room and observation deck. Watch the floors go by. The jewel of the Smith Tower is the Chinese room on the 35th floor. The room's ornate carved wood and porcelain ceiling and the elaborately carved black wood furniture were gifts to Mr. Smith from the Empress of China. Look north from the catwalk and see the areas you've covered. For over 50 years, the Smith Tower remained the tallest building west of the Mississippi. It's now in the shadow of the Columbia Tower, the city's current tallest building at 76 stories, built in 1985. As Seattle grew, streets were planned. Notice the bend in streets at First and Yesler? Arthur Denny and Carson Boren owned the northern plots and wanted their streets to follow the Elliot Bay shoreline. David Doc Maynard, owner of the southern plots, favored a grid based on the cardinal directions of north, south, east, and west, so they compromised at Yesler's Mill. Seattle was incorporated in 1869. By 1889, the population had grown to 25,000. On June 6 of that year, a carpenter was boiling glue when the pot burst into flames. The floors, covered with wood chips and turpentine, ignited and fire spread quickly to the surrounding buildings. Volunteer firemen couldn't hold it back. When the Great Seattle Fire had burned out, over 32 city blocks had been destroyed, yet no lives were lost. Businesses were eager to rebuild faster than the city could raise the new street levels above the tide flats. And this leads us to Bill Speidel's Underground Tour, starting at Doc Maynard's First and Yesler Tavern.
Follow me, guys. We're about to go down into the Corn Building, and that's KORN.
What happened was that the city was at a lower level, in 1889, the entire town burned down. They raised the streets in the lower part of town, which is Pioneer Square, anywhere from 8 to 35 feet. And it was cheaper to leave the sidewalks hollow than it was to fill them in. And 80 years or more later, we kept wandering around these old abandoned sidewalks, and the public curiosity was out of this world. That's how we started the underground tours.
This walk through Seattle's past is loaded with stories about Seattle's Great Fire, how the tides interfered with the city's new sewer system, the origin of terms like clip joint, the 2000 tax seamstresses who didn't sew, and the more recent sinking ship garage.
We like to say a walk through Seattle's past. The New York Times referred to the underground tours as the most authentically crummy tour in the United States. What you do is you see the old busted windows, the storefronts the way they were. Most of the time, people think it's absolutely smashing.
Warning, this is an R-rated tour. After the fire, Seattle's population grew to 50,000. In 1909, an ornate iron and glass pergola was built at the corner of First Avenue and Yesler Way. Its purpose was to greet visitors to that year's Alaska-Yukon Pacific Exposition and provide a waiting area for the Yesler and James Street cable car. Pioneer Square is now home to restaurants, clubs, unusual specialty shops, and art galleries. Along Occidental Street, watch glass being made at the Glass House Studio. The first Thursday gallery walk happens monthly at Pioneer Square's Occidental Park. This is the night that the neighborhood's art galleries open new shows and introduce their artists. Between 1st and 2nd Avenue, unrepresented artists display an array of work, some being made on the spot. For a little solitude, retreat into Waterfall Gardens at 2nd Avenue and Main Street. This small enclosed park, with its 5,000 gallons per minute rushing waterfall, was a gift to the city by the Casey Foundation, honoring the employees of the United Parcel Service. It was on this very site, in 1907, that Mr. Casey started his bicycle messenger service, and it has grown to become UPS. Across from the falls at 2nd and Main is the Last Resort Fire Department. Housed on the first floor of this 1928 10-bay fire station, this free museum displays early firefighting equipment, like an early hand pumper, a horse-drawn steamer, a mid-20th century Kenworth fire truck, a Mack pumper rig, and more. Though the station's replacement is nearby, the upper floors are still in use by the Seattle Fire Department's administrative staff and the on-duty deputy chief. Occidental Park's fallen firefighter memorial is a short walk away. Another storefront of history in Pioneer Square is the Klondike Gold Rush Museum at 2nd and Jackson. It's considered to be one of the smallest U.S. national parks. 8 years after the fire, in 1897, the Yukon Gold Rush brought 100,000 adventurers to town, outfitting them for Alaskan riches. Leave your gold at home. This museum is free, offering exhibits, demonstrations, and ranger-led tours. At 3rd and Main, experience law enforcement history at the Seattle Metropolitan Police Museum. Dating back to the 1880s are photos, documents, uniforms, weaponry, as well as information on some of the area's most notorious crime cases. By now, you should see the 245-foot King Street Station clock tower, modeled after Venice, Italy's San Marco Bell Tower. The restored train station, over 100 years old, is still in use by Amtrak and the Sounder commuter train. For many years, this was the entry and exit point for early Seattleites. The others arrived and left, presumably, by boat. Across 4th Avenue is the renovated Union Station, headquarters for Sound Transit, and platform for the Metro Tunnel gas-electric buses and Link Flight rail to downtown. Behind the train stations are Seattle stadiums. Quest Field is home to the Seattle Seahawks and Sounders. The Seattle Mariners play at Safeco Field. Heading east on Jackson Street, a one-block walk up the hill, is the International District. Seattle has the third largest Asian population on the West Coast, and the International District represents those cultures. There are specialty shops, Asian markets, and restaurants. If you're here in the late morning, don't have some humdrum lunch. Instead, enjoy a dim sum brunch. Served in many of the restaurants, this buffet is carted to your table. The individual portions of dim sum include various types of steamed buns, dumplings containing beef, chicken, pork, prawns, or vegetarian fillings. Be sure and try the hum bao. Your wait person will keep your tab either on paper or by counting the size and shape of the little plates left on the table. In a converted Chinese immigrant hotel at 8th Avenue and King Street is the Wing Luke Museum of the Asian Pacific Experience. Wing Luke was Seattle's first Asian city council person. The Wing Luke displays stories of survival, success, compassion, and hope. The immigrant hotel rooms are staged as they once appeared. There are continually changing exhibits of art, textiles, photos, and displays of Asian American history. Are you ready to shop overseas? Uwajimaya is the place to go in the International District for variety. It's the largest Japanese supermarket in the Pacific Northwest. From meat and produce sections to a fresh seafood market with live tanks, Uwajimaya also serves takeout food. Fine artwork, books, kitchenware, kimonos, and fabrics can also be found at Uwajimaya. In 1928, Fujimatsu Moriguchi began his business in Tacoma, Washington. After World War II internment, he reopened his store in the Japantown area of the International District. Now in its third building, Uwajimaya is still run by the Moriguchi family. Speaking of fish, it's time to find the waterfront. Metro Route 99 leaves the International District for the waterfront via Pioneer Square every half hour, and this is a free bus. Once the city's working port, the waterfront is now lined with shops and restaurants, including the original Ivar's Fish and Chip stand. Impress your guests by shouting your order to the cook. The counter personnel will instruct you.
I need to go through the crowd, front to back. I need all of your fried orders, get those going with my cook. I'll come right back for any chowder and drinks. Prawns and chips.
A few minutes later, despite the chaos,
Okay, sir, you got 2 salmon, 2 oyster, 2 clam.
lunch arrives. You'll be left wondering, how do they keep it all straight? Head to Ivar's waterfront deck and share your chips with the seagulls. Ivar encouraged it. For a view of Seattle from the water, walk onto the Elliot Bay water taxi at Pier 50. A short ride will take you to Alki Beach and back. If you've been on the underground tour, Alki Beach is where Seattle's pioneers landed and spent an unbearably cold winter in 1851. They called their settlement New York Alki. Alki is the Chinook Indian word for by and by, predicting the area would become the New York City of the West Coast someday. Remember, Incorporated Seattle isn't quite 150 years old. For a longer cruise, buy a one-way ticket on the Washington State Ferry to Bainbridge, boarding at Pier 52, and don't get off at Bainbridge. About an hour round trip, the Seattle skyline is beautiful from the water, especially at sunset. Want a little history with your cruise? At Pier 55, get a ticket for the Argosy Harbor Tour.
A lot of people think of Seattle as one of the rainiest cities in the country. In reality, we only get about 37 inches of rain a year.
Argosy offers a series of water tours depending on your schedule and interests. Time to shop. Pier 54 is home to the Ye Olde Curiosity Shop, a collection of weird, freaky, kitsch tourist items. In business since 1899, it's both a gift store and a licensed museum. Check out the mummies.
That's a real mummy in there? Yeah.
Further up the waterfront on Pier 57 is the Seattle Aquarium. It's a touching experience for kids. Watch the sea otters entertain naturally. Examine your favorite sea creature at the glass seawall, or walk and relax among the fishes. The Seattle Aquarium is educational and fun. Unfortunately, the Woodland Park Zoo isn't downtown, but you can get there on Metro Route number 5. At the north end of the waterfront is Seattle Art Museum's Sculpture Park, the 9-acre outdoor sculpture museum with a beach. This was a contaminated industrial site until the 1970s, when the Seattle Art Museum proposed transforming it into one of the only green spaces in downtown Seattle. It's a free outdoor sculpture park with both permanent and visiting installations, one of the country's most unique outdoor art displays. For those cruise passengers with us, here's where you joined the tour. Now on to the world-famous Pike Place Market. Return by waterfront to the aquarium and walk up the Pike Place Market hill climb. It's wheelchair accessible too. The market is one of the country's oldest continuously operating public farmers markets. Every morning it bustles with fruit and vegetable producers.
Come on in, a lot of fresh fish inside.
Fishmongers, butchers, and more, each presenting its own dazzling display. There's even an artisan cheese factory. Pike Place Market began in 1907 as rumors spread of middlemen price-fixing between the farmers and the public. At that time, Seattle's City Council established a public farmers market along the newly constructed 4-block boardwalk known as Pike Place. Real estate company owner Frank Goodwin observed the early morning chaos of farmers dealing with large crowds. Sensing the land was about to appreciate in value, he began to heavily advertise adjoining plots for sale. Work began immediately on what is today the main arcade of the Pike Place Market. Over the years, the market survived depressions, recessions, Japanese internment, and 2 world wars, only to be derailed by post-war suburbs, supermarkets, and urban renewal. In the late 1960s, prominent architect Victor Steinbrueck fought to save the Pike Place Market from the wrecking ball. An initiative was passed creating a historic preservation zone, returning the market to public hands. Steinbrueck Park is at the market's north corner, viewing west over the Puget Sound. Check out the Athenian Cafe. They've been serving breakfast and an amazing variety of beer since the market's beginning.
Local nectarines are here. Come on in for a taste.
At the market, you can gather the ingredients for a true Seattle dinner. Local salmon is the choice to make. Beyond the fresh fish and produce, the market offers handmade art, crafts, and the bronze piggy bank, an icon and rendezvous spot under the clock. Excluding Boeing and Microsoft, nothing in the world says the Great Northwest like Starbucks coffee. The first of thousands worldwide, this is their only store sporting the original logo. Can you spot the difference? Following this full Seattle day of no parking or traffic, double tall latte and groceries in hand, head up Pike Street to your favorite public transportation. Return home and prepare your guests an unforgettable dinner. Of course, this semi-walking tour can be altered to your schedule and interests. Seeing a little or a lot, Seattle's central core is vibrant and historic all at the same time. But there's one more place to visit. Go to seattle.gov/visiting for more information on these sites, maps, and transportation schedules. Enjoy your visit to the Emerald City.